welcome to my channel. My name is Catherine Hill and I'm here today to talk about my 2025 Q1 read list. So all the books that I read for the months of January, February, and March this year. And this includes both physical books and audio books. So we're going to get started with the stack that I have right now that is available to me. I read way more than this, but a lot of it was audiobooks or they were library books that have been returned to the library. So getting started, I just want to say not everyone reads books at a super fast pace. Even audiobooks, I can usually get through those a little faster, but it's okay if you stall out on a book and it's harder to move forward, even though it is a great book. So getting started, we're going to start with my January book. I don't have it. It was for my book club that I attend in person and through my local library. We read A Dangerous Fortune by Ken Follett. This book was intense. I had to stop and put it down several times just because it was a very intense story, a lot of dark themes throughout. Not my usual fare for books. I'm glad I read it. It was well written. It was twists that I didn't see coming in the end. But I don't have that physical book because it was a part of my book club through the library. So when we had our discussion back in January, I had to return the book. That is the only book I read for January. It took me the entire, I think like 4 or 5 weeks that I had it to read it. And I almost didn't finish it. It was a great experience though. So then moving on, February was a big month for me. In February, I read 2 physical books and I listened to 5 audiobooks. My first of the physical books was The Ghost and Mrs. Muir by R.A. Dick. This was the basis for one of my favorite movies of the same title, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir from the 1940s, starring Gene Tierney and Rex Harrison. Usually I'm not a huge fan of like books to movies and then going back and reading the books, but as an adult, I've started to go back and try to find the movies that I loved as a child and the books that went with them or inspired them. In this case, this was a delight. I really enjoyed the story. It didn't follow too closely to the movie, but they both had the same plot, the same idea, just slightly different variations in how it went. But I enjoyed both. I would say this is a rare instance where the book is just as good as the movie and the movie is just as good as the book, even despite their differences. The other book that I read was for my book club, which we read The Women by Kristen Hanna. Always, I've heard that's a really big one right now. It was well worth the read. A lot of just the hard things that your main character followed and went through. It was well worth it to me. It went fairly quickly for me. It was so good. I highly recommend it if you have the opportunity to read that. The next 5 books I got through in February were audiobooks through my local library's app that I was able to listen to. So the first was I listened to Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. They had been on there for a while and I just had the motivation and the push from a friend suggesting them to get them out of the way and off my TBR. I also listened to a nonfiction book called She's Still There, Rescuing the Girl Inside of You. And I think it was Crystal Hurst Evans or Evans Hurst. And she is a person of faith, and how she was able as an adult to remember the girl inside of her as she moved forward in adulthood and to not lose track of our inner child and the things that like we desired as children and how to help us see that person again. So it was really helpful for me moving forward, kind of the inspiration for what we're doing here. The next 2 were the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Very interesting. Been on my TBR for over a decade now, so I finally realized I wasn't going to be able to actually read the physical book just because C.S. Lewis's writing style is harder for me to get through. Audio works really well for C.S. Lewis. If he's someone that you've been wanting or meaning to read, listening to it is a great help. The next one, the next audiobook for February was The Handmaid's Tale. This is one where I've gotten through a lot of dystopian books right now. telling, I have no idea. We'll see how it goes. But then for the month of March, I got through 2 physical books and 1 audiobook. The audiobook happened to be 1984 by George Orwell. Another one where I realized as long as it had been on my TBR, I was never going to actually read it. Might as well listen to it. And it was an interesting story, a very hard story, especially just given what's happening in 2025. But I greatly appreciate it having the warnings and things to have going forward. A book I read for fun this month was The House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. It's the 2nd book in her Crescent City series. I am slowly making my way through Maas's universe. So I have gotten through all of ACOTAR last year, and I've gotten through the first Crescent City book, the 2nd Crescent City book, and now I'm going to be jumping over and going to try to get through Throne of Glass as the months progress. So hopefully I can get through it this year, and we'll just see moving forward. The last book I read was for my book club, and it was The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. That was a book, it took me about a week to read. It was about 300 pages. It's still fresh in my mind. It's the last book I read, and it was a great story. My book club has a great variety of options and try to take in preferences of everyone in the group. And so I have read books I never would have thought possible through my book club, and I'm very grateful for that. I think a big thing to remember is that it doesn't matter how fast you read, how slow you read, how little you read, as long as you are engaging in reading every day. There's times when I have to set timers to make time, especially for my book club books, to make sure I get those read in the amount of time. Even though it was a small stack for this quarter, with the exception of February, because of all the audiobooks, they were shorter audiobooks, so it didn't take nearly as long. I make a point that I really want to enjoy the books I'm listening to or the books that I'm reading as much as I can. Sometimes I don't enjoy the books. I did not enjoy January's book until after I had finished it, but the reading of it I was not a fan of. So sometimes we have to push through the books, but also we have to know when we have to leave a book. I needed that one done. It's like an assignment for me every month to get that book finished. Ideally, I would have started this video and done a monthly recap in January and February and March respectively, but I think the quarterly updates on actually what I have gotten read is just as good as a monthly update. We'll see where we go from here. Thank you for being here, and I will see you around the next bookshelf.